Ukraine is pushing ahead with its peace formula to end nearly 2 years of war with Russia, with a meeting of national security advisors in Davos.
As Hamas marked the 100th day of the war in Gaza, it aired a video of Israeli hostages appealing to their government to stop the offensive.
Yemenhouthi rebels fire missiles at U.S. warships in the Red Sea, responding to recent attacks carried out by the United States and the United Kingdom.
Former US President Donald Trump has urged voters to brave the winter storm and vote in the Iowa caucus. Ukraine is pushing ahead with its peace formula to end nearly 2 years of war with Russia, with a meeting of national security advisors from around the world in Davos. President Zelensky sent his chief of staff on ahead to attend the opening morning session. Euronews was also there.
The World Economic Forum annual gathering has started earlier this year with the fourth round of the Ukraine peace formula talks hosted by Ukraine and Switzerland. And although there were more countries participating here in Davos compared to the previous round in Malta, China did not attend the gathering. I asked Andriy Yermak, the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, whether Kyiv is trying to get China on board.
It's important that all the countries who is coming, they really, honestly want to participate and to help to end this war and to bring the peace. But there is a different thought, idea, how it's possible to do. And different countries have the different experience.
Chinese Premier Li Qiang will lead the delegation in Davos this week. Ukraine recognizes that Russian ally China must be brought on board for any progress to be made.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky was not at the Sunday meeting, but he will be here in Davos on Tuesday addressing the World Economic Forum the same day as Chinese Premier. Sasha Vakulina for Euronews from Davos.
Hamas rockets launched from Gaza towards Israel. As the 100th day of the war between Israel and Hamas was marked by both sides, the militants aired video footage showing 3 Israeli hostages and ended with the warning, "Tomorrow we will inform you of their fate." Israeli officials generally declined to respond to Hamas's public messaging on the hostages, casting it as psychological warfare. Only hours before, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed nobody would stop Israel and its war on Hamas.
אנחנו עושים הכל כדי להשיב את כולם הביתה. אני מדגיש כולם, בלי יוצא מן הכלל. המאמצים האלה נמשכים כל העת, גם ברגעים אלה. ואנחנו...
Meanwhile, in a televised speech, the leader of Lebanon-based Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, claimed Israel's war on the Gaza Strip was mired in failure and that it would be forced to negotiate. Israel has been trading fire almost daily with Hamas allies Hezbollah. But tension has risen further in the aftermath of an airstrike that killed an elite commander of the Lebanese militia 1 week ago.
Yemenhouthi rebels have fired missiles at U.S. warships in the Red Sea, responding to attacks carried out by the United States and the United Kingdom since Thursday. The attack on Sunday marks the first U.S. acknowledged fire by the Houthis, following weeks of assaults on shipping in the Red Sea. UK Defense Secretary has said that he is monitoring the situation very closely. If the attacks don't stop, we will then have to take the necessary measures, he said.
Their behavior in the Red Sea was completely unacceptable, and we'll keep a very close eye. If we have to take further action, then that's something that we would consider. But our intention was to have a very clear message sent to the Houthis, which I think is what has been achieved thus far.
UK and US Navy repel largest, most complex Houthi attack in the Red Sea. Since October 17, 2023, Iranian-backed Houthi militants have attempted to attack and harass multiple ships in international shipping lanes.
Thousands of people held the demonstration against the extreme right in the German city of Potsdam on Sunday. They included local resident Chancellor Olaf Scholz. There has been nationwide outrage since a leak from a secret meeting revealed that right-wing groups and AfD politicians had discussed plans for remigration, forced expulsion of people with migrant backgrounds. Critics say the plans are reminiscent of the darkest chapter in German history.
Wives of Russian soldiers sent off to the war in Ukraine laid flowers at the eternal flame near the Kremlin in Moscow on Saturday. According to a Russian news outlet, the gesture is a form of protest and a symbol that war always means death. Security forces tried to stop and detain some of the demonstrators. According to members of the Way Home movement who are protesting against the authorities, laying flowers has become the only legal form of demonstration in Russia.
Former US President Donald Trump has urged voters to brave the winter storm and vote in the Iowa caucus on Monday evening. Trump is hoping his campaign can halt his rival's momentum and secure the Republican nomination ahead of this year's presidential elections. Trump still maintains a huge lead in the polls, supported by nearly half of likely caucus goers. Former UN ambassador and South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis remained locked in a close battle for second. At a speech in Indianola on Sunday night, Trump called on voters to fight back against his political enemies and vote. He also claimed the 4 indictments he is currently facing are driven by false claims.
We're going to do well.
After Iowa, the Republican primary shifts to New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina over the coming weeks before moving into the rest of the country this spring. This was Ecuador's response to an unprecedented spiral of violence in the country. Thousands of military and police officers raided several prisons in Ecuador on Sunday in search of weapons, ammunition and explosives, and to restore order after a week of unrest and the detention of more than 100 officials. In the coastal city of Machala, where a prison officer died in a shootout between the security forces and inmates on Saturday, around 800 forces entered with tanks in the early hours of the morning.
Con su talento humano y medios logísticos de la subzona El Oro número 7, realizó una actividad operativa para liberar a los 15 agentes penitenciarios que se encontraban como rehenes en el interior del centro carcelario.
The raids started after gangs crashed a TV news program at the start of last week and took staff hostage. The state of emergency has so far resulted in 1,105 arrests and the dismantling of 28 criminal groups, according to the latest government report.
Israeli footballer Sajid Jahaskal has been arrested in Turkey over a goal celebration after scoring for his team in a match this Sunday. He showed a message on his wrist denouncing the terrorist attacks by Hamas on the 7th of October. The Turkish Football Federation has condemned what it said was a gesture that, quote, disturbed the conscience of the Turkish public. Antalyaspor has announced that it is terminating the contract with the player, who claims he was simply calling for an end to the war.
Bernardo Arévalo officially taking the helm of Guatemala's government as the country's new president. The progressive academic turned politician was inaugurated on Monday after winning the presidential election in August by a comfortable margin. Arévalo has vowed to stamp out corruption but faces ongoing headwinds. He has little support in Congress, and Attorney General Consuelo Porras has thrown one legal challenge after another at the 65-year-old and his party. He is expected to make calls for Porras's resignation a priority.
Lawmakers in Greece have introduced new measures aimed at tackling sky-high prices, an issue the government says is its #1 priority. The state estimates that prices will begin to fall by spring, but some residents remain sceptical.
Πολύ ακριβά. Πρέπει να δεν προλαβαίνεις να βάζεις το χέρι σου στην τσέπη. Χαλάς το 50 και σε 0 χρόνο φεύγει.
Τα νέα μέτρα που ανακοίνωσε η κυβέρνηση, πώς τα βλέπετε?
Θα δούμε, θα αποδείξουν τώρα. Σε λίγο καιρό θα δούμε τι γίνεται.
Βλέπω και καλά και κακά. Ορίστε, 7 ευρώ για χόρτα. Τίποτα άλλο δεν σας λέω.
Πιστεύετε θα πέσουν οι τιμές τώρα με τα νέα μέτρα που έκανε η κυβέρνηση?
Κοιτάξτε, είμαι τόσο μεγάλη γυναίκα που ποτέ δεν έπεσαν. Ό,τι ανεβαίνει δεν ξανακατεβαίνει.
The Greek government says the measures will address unfair profiteering from inflated prices, which it says can be put down in part to global crises.
Η εισαγόμενη ακρίβεια είναι το νούμερο ένα πρόβλημα που αντιμετωπίζουν όλα τα νοικοκυριά στη χώρα μας και κατ' επέκταση είναι και η πρώτη προτεραιότητα της κυβέρνησης. Ήδη η κυβέρνηση έχει προχωρήσει σε μια σειρά από μόνιμες και στοχευμένες παρεμβάσεις που κατατείνουν στην ενίσχυση των πολιτών απέναντι στην ακρίβεια.
Η Ελλάδα δεν είναι μπανανία, ήταν το μήνυμα του Πρωθυπουργού Κυριάκου Μητσοτάκη προς τις πολυεθνικές, τονίζοντας ότι ο πληθωρισμός απληστίας δεν μπορεί να γίνει ανεκτός. Γι' αυτό το λόγο, η ελληνική κυβέρνηση προχώρησε στην λήψη 4 μέτρων για την προστασία των καταναλωτών. Τα 2 από αυτά έχουν προσωρινό χαρακτήρα, ενώ τα άλλα 2 μόνιμο. Σκοπός είναι να μπει ένα φρένο στη ραγδαία αύξηση των τιμών και στην κερδοσκοπία. Γιώργος Δημητρόπουλος, Αθήνα, Euronews.
Emergency services arriving at a wedding in Italy's Tuscany region. They were called to the scene after the dance floor in the 15th century monastery collapsed, sending guests plummeting some 3 meters into the room below. Around 35 people were injured, including the bride and groom, who ended the night side by side in hospital, surrounded by some of their guests who were also hospitalized. 6 people reportedly suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries.